Have you seen the new Spellbinders July Club Kits? They all feature holiday and Christmas card designs. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and every year around the summer, I like to dive into some of the new releases that include holiday designs so I can get a jump on my Christmas cards right now and have more time to relax during the holiday season. As always, I have lots of kits to share with you this month, so let's just jump right into the card making and I'll share the new supplies as we go. First up, we have the Better Press Kit Club of the month. I love this design, and it happens to be one of those designs that is multicolor, so you can pass the same paper through multi times and line up the different plates on that clear acetate sheet. And I'll show you exactly how to do that in a second. There are also some dies. There's a die to cut out the tree and some snow and the little Merry Christmas sign. So first you're going to tape down that acetate piece right in the A2 guidelines, and then you'll place the first plate, which is, I'm using the car. It doesn't matter which plate you use first, honestly. So first I'm inking up the car with Strawberry Spellbinders ink, and then I'll tape in an A2 piece of the cotton press cardstock, and I'll run that through my die cut machine. Next, I'll remove the car, keep the acetate, ink up the little wheels, and run the same exact piece of paper through again. And that's how you get two different colors on one image. Now, for these other items, we have dies to cut them out. So I'm just running them on a separate piece of the cotton press cardstock. I have some green for the tree, and I'm using the same strawberry ink for the little Merry Christmas and other sentiment signs. Now I'll use those coordinating dies to cut everything out. Just hold them in place with some of that Spellbinders Awesome tape, and then run them through your die cut machine. The last sentiment says delivering cheer, so I decided to cut that out as well. I got a little ink where I didn't want it, so I used a sand eraser to get rid of that. And then I cut the panel down so that I could mat it on some coordinating red cardstock. I'll pop up on some thin foam squares from Spellbinders the Merry Christmas, and the delivering cheer fits also right behind the car there. You can use just one. I decided to use both, one above and one on the car. Then I glued in the tree with some liquid glue. I also have some liquid glue behind the die cuts of the pieces of snow. So you can put one around this corner of the car, one on the back of the car. There's a few tiny little pieces that you can add to the tree itself, and then some small pieces that you can add under the tires and center of the car. Super easy to put this together, but I love the design. I think it's so cute. Next up, we have the stencil of the month. It comes with this mask that's a bow and ribbon. So I've placed a little bit of rolled up tape behind the mask, and I'll adhere it down to an A2 piece of white cardstock. And then I'll place the stencil right on top. This is all on top of a grip mat, so it's holding the cardstock and the stencil in place. This is the first stencil. It's got the leaves, and then there are some of the stems and vines here. So I'll add a slightly darker green. I'm using very light ink. I used Wintergreen and Minted from Catherine Pooler Designs. Last, there's the little berries here that you can add in. I've decided to do them in pink rather than red to go with the light greens that I was using, so I used cotton candy ink. Now I'll take off that mask and then add on the last two stencils. This one is the completely open bow and ribbons, and then the second one is the shadow of the bows that'll make it look real and dimensional. So I'll add slightly darker red on that. And I'm using just a blending brush to do this, just so that I can add a very light hand. I'm not trying to get too heavy there. This is the clear stamp and die set of the month. This is a sentiment set with tons of options and dies to cut out the larger script words, as well as a rectangle to cut out the sub-sentiment. So I have No Peeking, which I stamped and cut out. I used black ink for that, and then Believe in the Magic, which I did white heat embossing over red cardstock. Such a fun card to put together. Next, we have the embossing folder of the month, which is this really pretty snowflake design, and I've embossed a couple of colors of cardstock. We also have the wax seal of the month, which is also a snowflake design. You can see how pretty it is there, and it really goes well with that embossing folder, and some really pretty white pearl beads to melt. I've done the snowflake design in several different colors of wax beads and added some paint marker on top. So here I have some silver thread, and I've cut down the white embossed snowflake design to about 4 by 5.25, and I'll just wrap a bunch of that silver thread around it and then add some tape runner to the back and adhere it down to an A2 piece of light blue cardstock, and then tie that thread into a bow. Next, I'll use the Spellbinders Wax Seal circle adhesives that really make adhering down those wax seals to your projects very easy. If you haven't seen them before, you just peel off one of the circles and then place it down on the back of the wax seal. Then I like to just kind of scrub it a little bit to make sure it's adhering down to the seal, and then pull off that release paper, and now you have adhesive that you can just press down onto your cardstock and it really stays stuck. I used a couple of the sentiments from the stamp and dies as well to finish off this card. Next, we have the 3D embossing folder, and you can see I've embossed several different colors of cardstock. I used my Mighty Mister on all of these before I embossed them, and you can see how beautiful the design embosses and how the paper is not cracked at all. So that is definitely a handy tool to have. This is the Glimmer Kit of the month. You can see it is some holly leaves and berries, as well as wishing you and joy as separate sentiments, and you get a roll of foil, which may be different than the one that I'm using here. So there's also some dies, one die to cut out the image and 2 different dies to cut out the 2 different sentiments. And if you get the caboodle, the deluxe of all the kits together, this is the free item this month. It's a little stencil that you can color in that glimmer design, and it just makes it really easy to add color to your glimmer. And now I'll just take that die, cut it out, pop it up on one of the 3D embossed backgrounds. I have 2 of those holly leaves and berries, so I have them meet in the center and then added joy right in between the 2. For another 3D embossed background, I wrapped gold thread this time around the background, which I cut down to 4 by 5.25, and I will knot that first, and then I'll use the 2 ends to create a bow right in the center there. So I have a piece of red cardstock that I die cut a bunch out of. I'll put a little tape runner on that and then place the panel right on top. I'll use one of those adhesive circles for another wax seal and place that right on top of the center of the bow, and then use the Glimmer Kit sentiments to say wishing you joy at the top. I'll create a similar card here, but with silver thread and the regular embossing folder and another wax seal. I like to do a couple of wax seals so that I have a bunch to play with when I'm doing my card making. I also like to emboss several different colors of cardstock, and it sometimes just gives me ideas for cards. So this time again, cut it down to 4 by 5.25, matted it on some red cardstock, which really allowed me to pop some sentiments that said Merry Christmas from the clear stamp and die set. And I love the way that that deep red looks on that light frosty blue background with the snowflake wax seal. For this one, I kept it simple. I added a sentiment that was die cut and stamped and heat embossed on top of the 3D embossed background in white. For this one, we have the stitching die of the month. Now, the stitching die, you'll have dies that cut the shapes and then stitching dies that you can add to them. So that means you could use the dies as is without the stitching holes, but I did cut the stitching holes out of each of the pieces. I don't know if you can tell already, but we're creating a ribbon and bow, sort of similar to the look of the stencil, but this time with cardstock and with stitched lines on it. So I'm stitching all of these pieces up, and then I will stitch the rest of them off camera. Okay, here's how you put it together. The long ribbon goes from the top to the bottom of a vertical A2 piece of cardstock. Then you have the two sides of the bow. I did add a little bit of liquid adhesive in between so they would stay together. There's also a element that cuts out on the top of the bow, which is the shadow die. And then you have two tails. So I realized everything was a little off center, so I did actually move it over a tad so that it would fit. Now the two little side rectangles just go underneath those bows and just make it look like there's ribbing on the sides as well. I know some of you are already Kit Club subscribers, so if there's something that's already coming your way that you're excited about, let me know about it in the comments below. If you're not a subscriber yet, let me know if something caught your eye today. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Kit Club. I know some. Okay.